you're promising to walk with that person. That's what it is. It's not, everything's going to be perfect, because, that's what the sanitized romantic comedy wants us to believe, but that's not what it is.
Even with our own issues, it's not like, oh, I'll do the work for you. It's I'll sit in the yuck with you when you're mired down in that yuck and sit with you while you do that work that needs to be done.
You're listening to the Talking 20 podcast. This podcast is for you if you're in your 20s and you're thinking, what the hell am I doing? We've all been there, and we want to talk about it. We're your hosts, Bridget O'Rourke and Mary Margaret Courtney, and we sit down with fellow millennials to chat about their journey and hear what they've learned along the way. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Talking 20. Today we have an extra special episode. It's our very first recording of 2022. This is our very first 4-person interview, and we have 2 extra special guests on the show. Our very first episode, Talking 20, was released last year during Pride Month, which was June, and it was called Talking Transgender, the Insight You Need to Be a Supportive Ally. And to date, this has been our most downloaded episode so far, and our most requested return guest. Liam, that's not what I'm supposed to say. On the episode, I sit down with my best friend since childhood, Liam Jotham, and we discuss as 2 friends all the specifics of being transgender. We talk about what it means. We talk about how to know if you are, if there's a correlation between gender identity and sexuality, the fears of coming out to your loved ones, what's involved in socially and medically transitioning, and Liam offers advice on how to be a supportive friend, parent, and ally for somebody who is transgender. It's an amazing episode. It's wonderful. So if you want to hear Liam's story, I suggest that you head on back and listen to that one. But today we're going to build on that episode. Back by popular demand, we have Liam Jotham on the show, joined by his wonderfully amazing girlfriend, Katie Havens, eventually to be known as Katie Jotham. So excited. And today we're drinking mimosas, and we're going to get deep down into all the dirt. So in honor of Valentine's Day season, which makes me want to barf, we're going to talk about this new life development for both of them, touching on, the evolution of their long-distance relationship. We'll talk about how they met and how they keep their relationship alive with the distance between Orangeville, Ontario, and where do you live, Katie?
Burleson, Texas.
Which is how many kilometers, Liam? I feel like you would know this.
2,600 some odd.
Really? You don't know the exact number?
No, I did know the exact number.
Oh, you did. It's probably in your phone somewhere. And we'll also talk about Katie's story, where we'll get into the nitty-gritty of being in a relationship with and as somebody who is transgender. And we will talk about their future plans of having a family and how the heck that works. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Katie, and welcome back to the show, Liam.
Hi. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Yay, we're so excited to have you on here and drink our mimosas, except Liam doesn't have a mimosa and neither does Mary. So we're 50-50 mimosa, non-alcoholic.
Yeah, it's all right. We've got coffee in a Texas mug and kombucha in an overly fancy glass.
So it's all like interrelated in some way.
Great. It's all great. Yeah.
We're
awesome.
The Aries are drinking the alcohol.
Amen. And in red sweaters, as they should.
Liam, what's your sign?
I'm a Libra.
Oh, and I'm a Virgo. What does that mean? What does all that mean?
That's for another episode.
Oh, you're the one before me. That's a good one. You're all right. Yeah. I'll keep you.
You're all right. You're okay. You're no Libra, but you're okay.
All right, so let's get straight into it. Liam, can you tell me about what the experience was like after that first podcast came out? We wanted, for us, it was like our very first episode. There was a lot of structure and planning and excitement and nerves on our end because it's like, okay, here's this brand, here's this like new baby we're putting out there. And then obviously, like, we've told people that we rushed it because of Pride Month and we thought, like, why would we miss that opportunity? But for you, this is your story and you put it in Bridget's hands to, like, take that story and make it look and sound pretty and edit it if she needs to. Like, that's taking a lot of power and handing it over to someone else. Was that a vulnerable experience for you? Was it exciting? And tell us what the response was and how you received it.
It was really exciting as it was nerve-wracking. But I think because Bridget and I have the history that we do, like, we've been friends for our friendship is of legal drinking age in the States at this point. So
It's true.
It's true.
And you bet your ass we celebrated that milestone.
Yes,
That's
we did.
hilarious.
So being friends for 21 years, you kind of go, okay, like there's no one else that I could see. There's no one else like I would have trusted with that story at the time. Even though when I told her it firsthand, I didn't tell it to her in such a succinct way. But
Did we talk about that in the first episode? How you told me? Yeah,
like my not telling you.
Yeah, how you didn't tell me.
Which
actually.
surprised me because I found out the same way Bridget did. And I was
way.
like, oh, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah,
I know.
we're gonna.
It's like,
Yeah, we wanted to talk about that too because we were like, okay, come on. But in
That's
that,
funny.
did like Liam, you must have had lots of people in your life that were still learning or didn't know. Were you like, okay, I'm putting this out there, like, here's the list of people that might go listen to it that might want to talk to me after?
No, because I think at that point, and it's funny to think that was already 6 months ago and how much can change in 6 months. But I think at that point, people that didn't know, it was understood. People that knew, I've told. And I was, but that being said, I was still taken aback by the fact that I was still so surrounded by love and community. And people held me close in that moment and were like celebratory about it. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm on a podcast, la la la, like go listen. It's my best friend's podcast. They're just starting. And everybody went and listened to it. People told me they cried. People told me they laughed. People sent me such kind messages like, I'm so proud of you and this is such a big deal. And whether it's like friends or family or it was really cool to have that sort of backing and put that into the world and know that it was, while I couldn't control the reaction to it, the act of putting it out there was a safe action to do and it was a safe space to do that in. So that was really valuable. And thank you to Bridget for letting me have that platform.
Yeah. Well, knowing the two of you, I mean, it was one of the episodes, like listening to it inspired me and made me like text Bridget and be like, okay, can we do this together? Because I was like, I remember driving and I remember what road I was on. And I was like, I want to talk to my radio. Like, I was like, I want to be a part of this conversation. I have questions. I have things I want to say. And just like how well
Mary,
spoken.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a sec just to say that for anybody who's listening that's a bit confused, this is because this was before Mary was on board the project. So Mary, it was just Liam and I during that time.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So it was so well put together. And even just like, not even on the topic of the conversation that can be tricky, how you guys like bantered back and forth and then just like your education and your knowledge and you're so well spoken. It was just such a good episode overall that it inspired me to want to keep doing this or start doing it at the time.
There were so many people who, you said that he was well-spoken, and so many people said that I feel like you were a great advocate, or not advocate, but you were great to speak on behalf of the transgender community. It was amazing to have you on, and I mean, in real life, we're usually discussing these things over a glass of wine. I ask these questions a lot more bluntly, so it was nice to be able to cushion it a little bit more and get educated on, you know, how I would ask somebody in the world who's not my best friend these questions. So, it was a great experience, and I'm happy that it made you want to come on board, Mare.
I have a question.
Here we are.
I have a question for Katie, actually, and I've never used your name, so...
That was weird. Okay.
I know, weird. You started as a listener. Because Bridget, I remember you being like, we have one person in town, like, we have a listener in the States?
It's me.
Oh, that was you!
I didn't know about Katie at this point.
No, you didn't. Yeah, so that was cool because, I really had never, and we can get into that later, but I really had never heard your story in full. It was bits and pieces, and seeing your name change on Instagram like Bridget did, and I was like, oh. But this was when we weren't really in, like, direct contact. We were just social media friends still. But that was cool though. And I listened and I was like, and it was actually really funny knowing you guys' friendship and knowing the ins and outs of it. And I'm like, oh, they sound so proper. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's not what it's like to be in a room with them at all.
Oh, definitely not. We've had many a FaceTime session. I'm like, that's definitely it was made appropriate for the general public, I should say.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's such a great example of like a bond in a relationship.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it got distilled down to this like nice, elegant way of having a conversation. But I said this to Bridget, like we've had such divisive times over the past few years about every topic under the sun, and people really struggle to put love first in a conversation. And that conversation is a great example on how to have tricky conversations and accept like that you're gonna make mistakes and accept that someone else might turn around and be like, respectfully, can you change? Yep, I can. I love you for like love came
That's
first.
really beautiful.
It's such a beautiful example.
I love this, Liam. We're just like, okay, everybody needs to stop talking and tell us why we're great.
This tracks.
Okay, so Katie, you said that you guys were social media friends before you found out about Liam being transgender and stuff. So can you give us a little bit of a background about how you two met, Katie?
So, once upon a time in 2010, there was this blogging platform called Tumblr, which I'm sure you guys
Liam's covering his eyes right now.
He's turning bright red. And we discovered each other on there. And I remember, it's funny, you guys talking about, I got a little misty when you guys were talking about his eloquence. That's what, obviously through, the media of writing, that's how I first came to know him. And that was the spark, as I was like, oh my gosh, like, this person puts into words thoughts that, like, I get that, like my soul knew his soul, like, instantly. And he was then presenting as female. And so that was not something, I am bisexual. That's not something I had come to terms with at the time, because I was 20 years old in Texas in a very small town where that at the time, and even sometimes today, is not really accepted. And I lived in a very bigoted household. So that was just kind of something. It was 2010 on the internet, where you could like be whoever you wanted to be on the internet. Mm-hmm. So we meet and we start talking, and the feelings are there. And I do not remember, we're both fuzzy with life and trauma and the, squirrel brains, on when I did, it became where we're talking every day, exchanging emails and texts and everything. And we both joke, we were the biggest kept secret in each other's lives at the time. Because nobody in our life
I didn't even know.
Yeah, nobody in our lives knew. Yeah,
really?
And so, and at that point it was just, because of his situation and because of my situation, like it was all through technology. Like, we didn't mail each other things or anything like that, just because it wasn't safe to do so, because my parents would have been like, where did this come from? So it was a whole thing. But I did tell him that I loved him. And I remember him saying something to the point of, that's a really big thing to say, and I'm honored that you're saying that to me, but that's a really big thing to say, and I can't say that back. Of course I was crushed.
Aw, Liam, you bastard! No, I'm just kidding.
What?
I think it's very mature of you.
Well, I had never said that to anyone before.
Yeah.
I was 18.
Yes, that's, yeah.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, he was 8. I'm a cougar. Oops.
Cradle robber over here.
But what I was hearing in my, what?
Cradle robber over here.
I know. What I was hearing in my experiences, was, you're not good enough. I'm waiting to tell somebody who deserves to hear it. But I couldn't help it. I still told him. And then that kind of, so, this was we talked for like 4 or 5 years, babe. It was like, It was a long time. And here's the thing, is it was not continual. Like, life would happen. He went to university. I started working. We'd lose touch, but then we'd always find our way back to each other, which I think is really beautiful considering where we are right this moment. But so that led into, I kind of came to terms with like, okay, well, he doesn't love me. And I should pause here because he actually did. There was at some point in that span of 2010 to about 2014-ish, he's like, I think I might. I don't remember, and babe, you can chime in here. I don't remember exactly what you said to me, but it was something to the essence of like, I think I might be a guy. And you have to realize, like, I had never met anyone transgender in my life.
You still haven't, apart from me.
No. We went, aside from a couple people that I've come across, but not like actually knowing their story. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But, and the thing is, and it sounds crazy, but I literally was like, okay, like, because like I said, my soul loves his soul, and that's what it's about, you know. But
now, Katie, was it kind of like a good thing in your mind that he was transgender? How did you feel about that?
It didn't. Not to sound callous, it didn't matter to me. Like I loved him. I do think that the fact that I am bisexual and I am attracted to both males and females, I did think that helped, because I do wonder, and I've looked at different TikToks and stuff like this, you know, trying to become more educated, you know, because, you know, my partner is transgender, like how it is when, you know, what if a woman who is straight and their partner, you know, becomes transgender? Are they not attracted to them anymore? Like how that works. And I've seen it go both ways, you know, so I think it just depends on the people and the dynamics and everything. That goes with everything. But
yeah, we have questions about that, because that is the hardest part when you A, aren't educated, or B, you're not going through it, is like, how the hell does this work?
Right.
Because it's like, it just feels like a complicated math equation where you're like, whoa, I gotta write this down to get it. So when you're going through it, absolutely. And it's I think a blessing in disguise that you guys had this space.
Oh, sure.
And you had the written word, which is something Liam is great at and worked at and studied. And you clearly have a desire to communicate that way. I want to know from Liam, in that, when you get that, I love you, and you've never said that to someone before, clearly you're both at a stage of life, like we're young. I mean, our whole show is about going into your 20s. Now it's a fucking shit show and we're so uncertain about life. Oh my God, at the same time, you're like, here's this person who's so far away. We have all these complicated factors. Liam, when you get that, did you take a while to process it and put together a response that felt appropriate? Were you just like, nope, I'm avoiding those emotions, that's too much right now, like put up a barrier? What was your intention with that response?
I wasn't where I'm at now with being me. I think the thing that I told you was, I don't think it was, I think I am. I think it was, what if I am? Where it was a deep, like an internal knowing for me that like, this is very probably yes, like me. But fear was there. So that stood in my way, and ultimately, like, I was standing in my own way. But also being 18 and being, you're right, there's so many factors, we're so far apart. And there was no real way to see a way for that to happen. So when someone that you are in love with, that tells you they love you, but there's so many factors in your way, and I knew that those words were heavy ones because I'd never said them to anyone before. And like, Bridget knows this, Katie knows this, I'm a romantic, and
oh yeah,
a lot. He's a big romantic. Makes me want to barf. Just kidding. I love it. I think it's adorable, but definitely barf worthy.
I wanted to say it right, and I wanted it to be right, but I felt if there was no way that this could happen anyway, then why say it?
It's funny that you say that, because I was the opposite. I was like, and I am, you have brought more spontaneity out of me. I am normally very straight-laced, by the books, like, but it was like, it bubbled out of me. I could not help but tell you. I'm like, I don't care if I never meet this guy. I have to tell him this. Like, I have to. Like, life's too short, and that's not who I am as a person normally. So
no, and that's how I felt this time. Telling you.
I know.
So let's get into how you guys ended up. So after, you had your little love sesh when you were 2010 to 2014. What happened in 2014? After that,
2014, I met my now ex-husband, and that was a very quick courtship, if you will. I feel like a lot of my feelings for Liam transferred over to him.
What do you mean by that?
Because looking back, I'm like, there's no reason I should have fallen for this guy. There's a reason we're divorced, and I'm pretty open about that. It's relatively new, but there was a lot of...
Katie, sorry, just interrupting you. Just move the camera up a little bit, because right now you're on, I know you're holding it vertically, but it only shows horizontal, so it's only showing your mouth.
I mean, I love seeing your mouth, but,
I did. I'm like, we're getting to the nitty gritty, and Liam's making sexual jokes about my mouth. I can't. but this tracks. So what I mean by that, I feel like that a lot of my feelings for Liam transferred over to my ex was that it was very quick. Like, my ex and I were looking at rings within a month after meeting. And I feel like because Liam and I, of the distance and because of like the obstacles between us, I felt like I met my ex and I'm like, oh, well, he checks all the boxes of like cishet white male, and like my family, likes him and they know him and he's here. And okay, well, it was settling. It was settling from day one. So that was, and then, so then you get into it and there was manipulation and abuse. And so I'm very thankful for that whole series of my life because of my beautiful son, Jack. But besides that, it's like, yikes. But yeah, I feel like a lot of my feelings for Liam, because I never forgot Liam, because I always found myself, comparing the life that I was living to even the bits and pieces of what Liam and I had before.
Yeah, and to get from someone the immediate response that you didn't get from Liam, it's like immediately like fills that void, right? Like if you are like, there's this person that I want and desire, they're so far away. I put my heart out. They say I can't say that back. And then you find yourself in a situation, being in Texas too, obviously a variable to do what feels like quote unquote safer.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's totally wild that timeline fell the way it did. So then did you and Liam continue to talk even while you started this new relationship? You get married. Was it like silent?
I did tell him that and babe, you can totally take the reins on this one. I did tell him that I told him I met someone, and then I told him I got engaged, and then it dropped off from there. And the way that it was done. So here's from my end.
The way that you did it was shitty. We've already talked about this a lot.
And I fully own that. I fully own that. I didn't realize in the moment that it was shitty because I thought you didn't love me. And so I thought, oh, well, of course I can just tell him, like, I met someone. He'll be excited because he doesn't love me, And little did I know I was ripping his heart out. So
I was heartbroken.
Yeah, that's a conversation we had after we reconnected. That it was a couple of times, usually over wine.
Yeah. So when did you guys?
But important stories to. Sorry, it's important things to come out with so much separation. It's not like you guys lived in the same town. Mm-hmm. It's not like you've gotta get that stuff out.
On my end, like in the same way that she never forgot me, I never forgot her. I would wonder about her from time to time and just sort of miss her, even years later. And for my own part, I tried to put the pieces together with somebody else, and I could never see that being more than it was. And like that, the person that I had in between wanted me to move an hour and a half away, and I'm like, no, but I'm not batting an eye at moving to Texas. So the heart knows.
Right, yeah. Right. I forgot. Yeah, you're moving to Texas. That's awesome.
Probably soon. Yeah.
So when did you guys reconnect then? Like, what's the story of, Katie, now you're married, you having your son. Mm-hmm. Liam, you're doing your own thing in Canada. So when did you guys reconnect, and like, how did it evolve from there?
So that is one of the only benefits, I think, from COVID, is that it was literally like, it was April 2020. It was like, the peak height of like pandemic. Yeah, exactly.
I love that we're talking about it as if it's over, but sure.
Peak pandemic.
I know. Yeah, but peak it was, Patricia. So so I should backtrack a bit here and say that, we stayed social media friends from that time, from 2014, and I got married in 2016. 2014 to, present day. And I would like his things from time to time, and we actually have looked back now, and like I would comment, and I didn't remember doing that, but I always like, had that fondness and thought of him, fondly and everything. And then I saw that his name changed, and I went, oh my God. My initial reaction was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for him. Like, oh my gosh, like he's living his truth. Like, oh my God, it made me so happy. I don't think I said anything because like I felt like that was overstepping because I was married.
And your secondary reaction was?
My secondary reaction was, you're going to have to remind me about that because I don't remember what I told you.
You're like, oh no.
Oh. No, that happened later. But we'll get to that. No, so we reconnect. That's when we reconnected. That's what you're thinking about. So we reconnect, and so I of course go on an Instagram deep dive creep, and I'm like, oh no, like yes, I was attracted to him before. I'm like, oh god, I'm even more attracted to him now. I'm like, and I should say like my marriage was not in a good place, and it was not a good marriage at all. So while I'm not sitting here advocating for people to like, hey, go talk to your ex while you're married. I also know my truth, and I know Liam's truth, and I know what we have is real, you know. So we reconnected. He's like, basically like, hey, how's your pandemic going? Like, I know you have a little one, you know, like how's everything going for you? And I was then a stay-at-home mom. So we started talking in April 2020, and we have never stopped talking. And within a week, I'm like, oh my god, like he's the same old Liam. Like, holy crap, this is insane. Yeah, and the conversations we instantly began to have, and I don't mean like spicy conversations, because honestly, that did not come until much later. It was, I'm like, I haven't had conversations like this in so long, like since he and I had been together before. But no, yeah, that's what he's talking about. That was a sly comment he was making. Is that I was instantly like, oh no, like I am way more attracted to him now than I even was before. Like this is dangerous. Like, oh, danger. But so everything kind of ramped up in 2021, and I began to open up to him about some things that were going on in my marriage. And he was a steadfast companion and like sounding board, and was able to help me.
That makes me sound like a golden retriever, but like, thanks, honey.
So loyal.
Are you the golden retriever boyfriend?
So loyal.
Rub my belly, give me cookies. Yes.
Liam, you were also going through, and I don't know if you guys want to talk about this, but you were also going through school for social work at this point, too. So you had a deeper understanding of Katie's situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so basically he was seeing not to interrupt, babe, but he was seeing some warning signs that I did not see at the time.
Yeah, right? Because I was learning, like, I quit the program. It wasn't for me, but I feel like I was in it at the right time to be able to be helpful in that capacity. Because, you know, I was learning about like trauma-informed care and how trauma can present itself and how abuse can look or not look, and all the not clinical signs necessarily, but just what to look for when you're working with people. And at that time, you know, those feelings were there for both of us again. We didn't say as much, but really earnestly, I was there to be a support and a friend, and as much of a support as I could be from that far away. Because when someone is vulnerable with you like that and tells you these things, that's a privilege and an honor to be that person for someone.
And to have the access to the information that was needed to help someone feel safe. Having a mom who's in the social work world, and a brother and a sister-in-law, and like so many family members that do this. I've had several times in my life where I sat there as someone's, you know, maybe given me information or trusted me or needed help for something. And immediately you're like, well, I just want to save you and swoop you up and get you out of the situation. But it can be trickier than that. And there are ways to support someone and not be helpful. And it's really hard to know that. And I've several times been like so grateful that I've had those people in my life who are like, well, here's some key questions to ask and things you can do, and wait till this point, you know, like there was things that, so having that for yourself while someone you care about who's so far away, like what a tool and a resource to keep Liam, like keep you sane. And then for Katie, like you need a social worker, you need someone from at that level, and not saying Liam's a social worker, but to have those tools and access. It's like apart from your relationship, what a miracle. Like,
it's truly, we always say that like we in our individual senses, because we both experience trauma and grief, you know, of different degrees, but we are miracles. But like the fact that we are together is a miracle, and like that it's insane. Like it is absolutely, and it's one of those things where you know it's divine. You know that like whatever higher power you choose to believe in, like that it's ordained. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
so yeah, it was.
So
yeah, and it came. Go ahead.
So, oh no, is Katie frozen? She'll come back. There she is. So Liam, at this point, like you're kind of, you're seeing this situation as a social worker as something that you're training for in a job, but you're also romantically connected to it. How did you go about, like, was there ever a time where you felt like you needed to take a step back? Or how did you go about handling that situation?
Yeah, it was hard because I wanted to put on my social service worker hat and be that helping professional, but at the same time, we weren't involved yet that way. But I was also wanted to be a good friend and a good support. But then I had to reconcile my own feelings and go, I'm too close to the situation emotionally, and it's not good for my mental health because actually in the profession they call that a dual relationship. You're not supposed to like help like people you're close to because there can be that transference there, and that's not healthy for your client or for you. And ultimately, like, you know, we can beat a dead horse a million different ways, but it's still a dead horse. So we had some heavy, hard conversations, and I ultimately was like, I need to step back because this is not healthy for me to be this involved or this close. I still want to...
And not step back in a way, and not to interrupt you, but not to step back in a way and like you said you were done.
No.
You said basically, because when I began to tell you these things, you know, then it got to the point where it was like, you know, you're like, you know, because you realized what was going on. And I will never forget, there was this quote that you said to me, because I'm like, well, he's a good dad, but he's just not, you know, he's not a good husband. And you said, well, then let him be a good dad, but don't be his wife. And I was just like, and yeah, the selfish part of me wanted you to be saying that to me romantically, but you weren't.
No.
And that's what anytime I've explained our relationship in the timeline to people, to my close people, which has been, and it makes me emotional think, it has been so like embraced. And it's not something I expected, especially coming from, like, I was with this man for 6 years and we have a child together, and I portray the social media. And I think it's an important, you know, especially, you know, the audience, you know, being in your 20s and everything's Instagrammable. Like, it's not always real life. Like, you could look at my old Instagram and think that and Liam saw that I had a picture perfect life. And there's literally pictures on days that were awful for me mentally and physically that I'm like, oh, look at us. Like, we're out. And it's like, it's just a reminder that, like, social media is not always it's usually not portraying real life, you know, and just to live authentically, because that's what we're here for, you know. But
so Katie, would you be open to talking a little bit more that process of going through a divorce? You have a child, which is obviously like the most important variable. Personally, also it's a pandemic while all this is happening, which
like whatever. Yeah. It's fine.
Yay. We do things in a big
way.
way.
No big deal.
Big way.
Yeah, not like they needed something else on their plates.
No.
I was completely alone with like no life drama, and it was traumatic.
Yeah,
so
for real.
Preach. I feel for you, and like the journey to like recovery and happiness must have been crazy. So the starting point of that, you know, saying like, okay, this is my move forward. Obviously at that point, like, Liam's a factor in your life, but your number one and that is your son.
Yes.
And what does that journey look like? How does that start for you?
So everything kind of ramped up in the summer, and
Sorry, can I interject for a second?
yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I have the talking stick. So I even remember saying to you, like, you know, before I told you how I felt, and I needed to tell you that in the way that you needed to tell me last time, where I was like, it doesn't matter what, I don't care, I just need her to know that that I love her, and, you know, even if she's not my person in this lifetime, she's my person, and like, that's it, that's all. But I even remember...
We're just not puking, she's crying.
She's puking tears.
Well, also puking internally.
Yeah. You should get that checked, buddy. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
No. I even remember saying to you, like, I just want you and Jack to be safe and happy. And that, like, even before we I don't know how we became us exactly. I can't pinpoint that moment for us, but that was always a priority for me too. It wasn't, I was like, let me be, at that time I was like, let me be your third priority. Because your first priority should be your son. Your second priority should be you. And if I get to be on that list, great. If not, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And your
which was
safety and happiness is huge.
Opposite for me. Yeah, that was, and I even present day, I'm still living with those contrasts in the positive way of like what I have experienced with my ex and what and who Liam is, and it's insane. So yeah, everything ramped up in the summer. Liam, I came to at the end of June, I was like, all right. I kept telling him, like, I have to try to make this work for my son, meaning my marriage. And he having come from, and I hope it's okay to say this, like, he having come from a home where his parents were divorced, he's
Twice.
like, don't, like, stay married for your kid. Like, that's not always the best thing. I lived in a household where my parents should have gotten divorced, should have, I would say that, absolutely swear on everything. But you can't see it when you're in it all the times. So I had to come to that. It was very much a precipice of like, oh my God, this is the rest of it. And Liam asked me, he's like, do you want to live the rest of your life like this? The next 10 years of your life, the next 20. And I'm like, no, because I could not. I mean, and it was and I feel comfortable and open of saying it was a very dark place where there was times I'm like, all right, peace out. Like, I'm just going to not be here anymore. Like, honestly, like it was those deep, dark places. And Liam was there for me, and if anything, knowing that he had experienced loss, I'm like, I can't do that to him because like, first and foremost, my son, but I was like, I can't do that to Liam because like, he's lost so much already. Mm-hmm. But so we get to July. He tells me he loves me in July. But I should say, and it was very respectful, that like, until I told him like, I'm done, I just got to figure a way out. Because mind you, I had been a stay-at-home mom from the time my son was born, February 2019, until this 2021. It was June 2021. I started working again. So I had no resources. I really have no family to speak of that I could call on and be like, hey, I need to get out of the situation. So it was me pulling, like, working extra and saving and, all this stuff to, like, get a game plan going. Meanwhile, I'm, like, appeasing my ex saying, yeah, let's go to couples therapy while I'm going, I know this is not going to work. But just kind of biding my time. And so, and Liam was there the whole time and everything. And told my ex, like, okay, like, I want to work on co-parenting, but I do not want to work on this marriage. And that was a big moment. And of course, like, he went out back and like called his parents, and I'm texting Liam and he's like, oh my God, like, you did it. And I'm like, yeah. And like, I feel like, honestly, sometimes it feels like I blinked and like I woke up now in January 2022. Yeah. And other times it's like every step of that journey has been insanely amazing. Because I should backtrack here and say that Liam, actually, we had not met in person until September of 2021. And that was one of those, that's a super romantic story.
It is.
That baby could totally take the run. Because then we were hoping that we would be able to make it work long term. But there wasn't, I mean, nothing's ever certain. But, it's like,
Excuse me?
There wasn't a certainty. let me backtrack. We are certain. But,
Thank
like,
you.
I'm saying at that time, like, we're like, okay. He's like, hold on.
It's funny that Britta's laughing because she knows how I'm going to propose too, right? So she's like,
oh, I do.
I know. Everyone knows. My work friends know because he got told.
Well, that's not fair. Katie, just leave for a bit so I can know too, and then we'll jump back.
I'll give you the deets later, Mare.
Okay.
I know.
So
that's amazing.
Katie, so at this point, I know on a much smaller scale, I went through a breakup during the pandemic. It was awful. It was nowhere near what you went through. But I did notice that I found kind of a journey of self-love after that, and I was able to just focus on my work, get clarity on myself, and just really dive into who I am as a person. What did you kind of, like, did that happen for you? Because you've been, you know, in this relationship for the majority of your 20s when you're trying to figure out yourself, but you're in this relationship that is not really good for you. Now you have the time to learn about yourself. What did you learn during that time?
Yeah, I was joking when we were going to record this podcast because I'm like, I'll be 31 in March. I'm like, I'm a little past the talking 20s, but you know.
You're an expert.
I'll be the sage old lady who gives advice.
No, my mom's been on, so you're fine.
Perfect,
we've had older.
perfect. Love it. So it definitely was, because I mean, I was in a space where I did not feel worthy. I did not feel, you know, I did not have self-love, you know, because when you have someone who is supposed to be the closest person to you telling you the opposite and showing you the opposite, that is not helpful, you know. So, and I should say that, like, it truly is a miracle, because like I came from that upbringing as well. Mm-hmm. You know, my parents had a very similar relationship to what I came from.
Out of the fire and into the fire.
Yes, exactly. So it still is to this day a long journey of, like, I will constantly, and I feel like Liam and I one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we're very good communicators with each other. And I literally will be like, okay, my brain is telling me that you're angry at me. Are you angry at me? And he's like, no, I'm not angry at you. And when he was here, I will get emotional. When he was here in January, because he just visited in January, he visited from the 2nd to, I don't even know what day you left, because you left, you stayed longer than you had intended because you didn't want to leave.
So I didn't, and I didn't get COVID. And I didn't.
And it didn't get
I didn't. No, but if I'd gotten COVID, I would have been able to stay.
Right. I told Liam, I really wish that, I hope for you and Katie that you both get COVID, but like not in a scary or sick way, just so you can't leave.
Exactly.
Just in like a cute quarantine way.
Yeah.
COVID, yeah.
That should be a meme. I hope you get COVID in a cute quarantine way. That's going to be the Valentine's Day meme.
Can I have that? Can I have that on a sticker?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so wait, go back. So, you were saying, so you have these like moments where your brain takes over and tells you that he's angry or something's wrong.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. So he's here, and there was time. So in Liam's stay, like I ended up, like I took a week off work, but then I ended up having to go back to work because like that was past the stay that like we had planned on. And I went to work and I came home, and he like has helped me like make the apartment feel like home. And he goes, I walked into my bedroom and he's like, hey, I folded these clothes and they're on the bed. He's like, I didn't know where they went though, and I hope that's okay. And I stopped and I went, baby, the last time anybody touched my clothes, they were throwing them on the floor because I didn't wash them correctly. So it's totally fine that you didn't put them where they're supposed to go. Like, I was like, I had so many pinch me, you're crying, aren't you? I was like, I had so many pinch me moments of like, it's the exact opposite, where I had moments with my ex of like, this is my life. Like, I'm supposed to be happy. And it's Christmas. I'm supposed to be happy, right? But with Liam, it's like, it's very cheesy, but like every day feels like Christmas. It does. It's so
yeah.
And like, and
but
we communicate.
It's so great to.
Sorry,
yeah, go ahead,
Mary.
No, you go.
Oh, I will.
No, you go. Okay, like, I'll go.
No, you go. But we communicate so well. Like we, you know, even we don't call them arguments. We just call them discussions or disagreements. And we go, okay, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brene Brown. Mama Brene, we love you.
Oh yeah,
Mama Brene. Yes.
You know, she always has the phrase, "The story I'm telling myself is."
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we use that. We've used that a couple times, and it's like we're just on complete opposite pages of an issue. That's not really even an issue. It's just that those wires got crossed a little bit. And to go back to what you said earlier, Mary, like to put love first. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. And like, you know, we actively choose each other every single day, and we're diligent and vigilant, and you know, you have to check in and you have to communicate, and you can't let it slide, because if it slides, it can slide too much, and especially being so far apart.
Okay, Paige Davis.
Being so far apart and like your experience from where you come from. And Lee, this isn't actually in our scheduled thing, but I have this question because I'm in my first real relationship that I feel very similar feelings you guys have, where I'm like, yeah, I had those moments, I had these things. I don't come from abuse, but I do come from loss. And the thing I've carried with me, and curious, Liam, if you have any of this, having enough loss in my life that created like a traumatic period of blackout time. I have no idea what happened.
And if anybody wants to hear about that time, you can go listen to episode 2,
Mary's
Talking Events,
episode.
Grief, and Home Ownership with Mary Margaret.
Oh my God.
I love it.
What a segue.
But it does carry forward into my relationship a fear of loss. It also brings like, I learned to be so grateful and so happy for my time and for the people in my life and cherish those moments, as cheesy as it is. So I have moments where like Brene Brown, Glennon Doyle, who I know you guys also listen to, they have saved me at times because they've given me tools in my relationship to go like, yeah, my traumatic experience in life is causing me to act a certain way within this relationship. There's so much love, there's so much emotion and intensity that, yeah, those wires get crossed. And when you have those arguments, I like that you call them conversations, it's so great that you guys like identify that and stop and appreciate like the impact of just getting your clothes folded means so much more for so many reasons. And for Katie, I'm just grateful that you have this like safety to be able to be like, can I help you understand what it means to have someone like take care of my clothes or come home and feel safe? Like, that's so incredible.
So are there things that you guys have also kind of pulled with you? Because Liam, I don't think we talked about this in the first episode, but just to give the listeners an idea, Liam's mom passed away suddenly a couple years ago, who he lived with, very close with, horrible situation. Katie, you've obviously have been talking about your story, about trauma, which also it goes hand in hand with grief. So can you guys talk about the things that you've pulled forward from those experiences that you're working on in this relationship?
I think for me, it's, thank you. Yeah.
Stick.
Talkie stick. Yeah. I think for me, it's given me a shorthand in terms of, until you get to that deep, dark place, you can't understand it. And we've both talked about, and we still talk about, it's an ongoing conversation of, it's not about, neither of us are here, like, let me fix you. That's not the point. It's, I see your demons, you see mine. Let's walk this road together and see what that looks like and be that person for each other. And we've also, I think, talked a lot about, and I've learned that, like, other people can't make me happy. They can add to my happiness. So, we say a lot, like, thank you for adding to my happiness today, or like, thank you for completing my happiness, or
I love that.
Or like, or
thank you for adding to my bad mood. That's what I'd say to people. Bitch. I'm just kidding.
Thanks for making my day worse.
Sometimes.
Or
that's wonderful.
Or we talk about, I think it was Winston Churchill who called his depression his black dog. So we'll sit there and go, I'm having a black dog day. Okay.
It's like if any of you watch Dexter, it's like the dark passenger. I don't know if any of you
Yeah.
watch Dexter, but...
Or we've even come up with a shorthand of like, if you're having a moment, but the issue is not necessarily about you and your partner, or it is about you and your partner, but you just need to take a step back for a moment. We would go, what would take a minute to do? I don't know how, honey, you came up with eat an egg, which is like, just give me a minute, we're good. I just need a second to just,
Okay, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to tell us why this came up.
Yeah.
Story. So before he and I were FaceTiming. I think my ex was elsewhere, had to be.
I love that we're
we were
still catches me by surprise. I know, but
so he was Bridget.
That was Bridget vomiting for the listeners.
Liam was eating some kind, we were FaceTiming, and Liam's eating, and alcohol was involved, I should say.
As always.
He's eating some kind of bowl, and there's an egg on top. Like, you would put an egg on top.
I made a rice bowl with beans.
Oh, yeah, and salmon or something. I think I remember this meal.
Yeah, I don't remember what I said or did. I said something, I was being flirty because it's me, hello. And you, like, stopped, and you, like, turned bright red, and you, like, went off camera, and you're like, I just need to eat this egg. I just need to eat this egg. And I was like, what are you talking about? And you're like, your face is too distracting. I was like, oh, my face is distracting? What? You're like, I'm overwhelmed. I can't.
Your face is overwhelming.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I need to eat this egg.
Yeah.
That's funny. I like that.
Because I need to eat this egg. And I was like, what?
That's so
I need to
cute.
eat this egg.
That's adorable.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry, Liam. So through the loss of your mom and then coming into this situation X amount of time later, have you found the impact of that loss there, like part of that, like, would you be willing to talk about what that baggage is?
It's huge because, you know, my mom was, and Bridget can attest to this, my mom was like awesome, but my mom was my best friend.
The best.
My mom still is my best friend. And
As she
you know,
should be.
and to know that, like, all of those happy moments that we've experienced and have yet to experience, there will always be tinged with a little bit of sadness because, like, she won't be there for that. And the grief is sort of a double whammy. You go, yeah, I'm sad, and not even sad. That's putting it lightly, but yeah, I'm hurting because of my own grief, but you're also grieving for that person, the things that they didn't get to experience with you. That's hard.
Yeah.
But it also makes me sit there and go, you know, like, to have that sort of magnitude of loss really does make you evaluate your place and what you're doing with your life and your time and the people you surround yourself with. And in the case of COVID, it was a perfect storm for me. Like, it helped me exit gracefully a relationship that wasn't serving me at all and was just taking, and gave me back the person that I never thought I would get to call mine. So it really makes you evaluate and go, you know, and it makes me ask myself my new favorite question. And, like, you guys, the two of you, sorry Mary, you're in on it now. We're good.
That's all right.
I've heard this a lot. Like, you know, have I been conditioned to want this, or do I deep yes want this? And, you know, like our relationship and our life and what we're building and have already built is a deep yes.
COVID has really provided us time, because that's all we've been given is just time to sit around and think, but to act intentionally and to move forward with intention. And Katie, you talked a lot about your journey, like, moving timeline seems fast, and, like, the listeners might listen and be like, I'm kind of confused because it seems we've jumped around, but I love it. But
Bridget
to me, it is like there. Yeah,
I was.
But the takeaway of it is that life is never simple, and we didn't even like we've only got so much time left, and I think we have a topic coming up.
I was just gonna say, like, I want us to take a turn soon.
Hard dive, but I just want to say to you guys that, like, your ability to have introspection, Bridget's favorite word, the communication is huge, and, like, that work to self-growth, I think anyone in any form of relationship could take that away. We intended to come into this conversation talking about the intricacies of the type of relationship and blah, 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 blah. But my favorite part we started here was, like, we move forward with love and all of it doesn't seem to matter. And even in the most complex situation, I don't know how you get more complex than where you guys started in 2014 to now.
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
See, I'm confused. But, like, wow, there's so much to be grateful for, and you can call it cosmic, but, like, you're doing the work every day. And before we get into the big topic and take the hard turn, Bridget, I just want to ask you guys. So Glennon Doyle and her partner, when I heard about your story and where you guys came from versus where you're going, I was like, oh my God, I hope they listen. Untamed
Don't even talk
Glennon
to us
Doyle.
about Glennon.
Oh my God.
I
but
knew,
like,
right when you said that, Mary, I was like, oh God, we're going into another. We're going into
And for anyone who's
dive.
listening who doesn't know, Glennon Doyle came from a marriage with a man. She did the thing. She had the children. And then she meets her soulmate. And their story is like a stupid romance novel. They see each other from across a room at like a book conference that she's speaking at. I don't even know why Abby Wombat's there, and they're just in love and together forever. And they did the same thing where they were sending each other mail, and one of them's not gay and the other one's very gay, and they're like, how did we get to here? And they just found their way to their own identity and that self-love and growth that Bridget talks about. It brings you closer to finding that person because you're your more authentic, true self.
It does. And like, I'm not here to, you know, I'm here to live my life now. I'm not here to defend it anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Damn right.
Yeah. And like, but like, Bridget and I have had so many different conversations over the past year about relationships and Bridget's breakup boot camp, which we can't talk about here, but we should talk about on a pre-release chat because it's awesome. But our journey,
it's a course. You can buy it. Pay me $150. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Seriously,
you could brand it though. Seriously. You could brand it though. And it would be a depressing thing because you're like, I'm making money off of people's
You'd be like, I'm making
breakups.
money off of people's breakups.
Yeah. But it's just, I love that we're putting this out around Valentine's Day. I hope people listen to it, and no matter what your type of relationship is, I hope you take that away, that like both of you, it is about your own growth and your personal truth, and then defending it. Like the fact that Liam and Katie are both now on journeys of like, it's about you and your life, and this person I'm with just happens to support it and wants the best for me, so they want me to be on that self-growth journey. They want me to do this good thing for myself, and I want you guys to live in the same town and be in the same home because I just hate that you're so far away from each other.
Right? Oh, it's crazy. Okay, so we're gonna take a turn. Your story is incredible, guys. It's gonna inspire so many people. It's crazy. But there's also something that I feel like the listeners may be wondering. I know about it. Mary might be wondering. So you guys are planning to move. You're planning to move to Texas, Lee. You're going to have a family one day. So what we want to talk about, the topic of sexual identities, we didn't want to like overwhelm this with. But it does get a bit confusing when you talk about pregnancy and having babies and making a family and stuff. So can you guys talk about what your plan is and what other plans, like what the things that you guys have considered in having a family? Liam, you can still get pregnant if you wanted to. Do you want to do that? Do you not want to do that? What's the plan? How the hell does this work?
That's really what this podcast should be called, isn't it?
How the hell does this work? That's actually a funny name.
Oh, great.
Like, oh, hey, have you listened to How the Hell Does This Work?
Yeah.
It's about everything that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, like, yeah, I can still, like, conceive and carry if I wanted to, as far as I'm aware. I have no impacts to my own fertility. I think pregnancy is a beautiful thing that, as far as I know, my body can do. I'm not terribly interested in that process, just because it doesn't line up for me mentally.
Right.
But that being said, like, and especially since losing my mom, I do want there to be some part of me and vicariously some part of her passed down, and that continues. So, and, you know, we want to grow our family, so obviously we have Jack. But we want to...
He's
a Spitfire.
Jack is Katie's son, in case anybody was confused by that. Katie and Liam's son, but Katie's biological son.
Yeah. That makes me want to cry a little bit, because I've never heard anybody else say that. We've just said that. I've never heard anybody else say that. Yeah. I don't know, honey, you can keep going. I'm having a moment.
Bridget, she got you.
Oops.
And that's, I'm sure, like, some, listeners will, like, it's very hard to date after you have, which, God, we didn't even really date. We were just, like, into it.
Like, when we went on our first date when I was there in January. When I was there, like, a while ago, a little bit ago.
September, I guess, was really first date, but that wasn't really a date.
No, that was a.
So in September, Liam flew to Texas for 24 hours to meet Katie.
We didn't even tell that part. Yeah, not even 24, 16
What?
hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was on the ground for 16
Flew
hours.
from Toronto to Texas for 16 hours and then flew back out.
Yep.
We were awake for 12 of those?
14 and a half of those hours.
A lot of those hours, yeah.
And then recently, Liam, as Mary stated earlier, Liam went to Texas for a couple weeks. And that you guys got the feel of like what it would be like to live together and, you know, all of the relationship-y things.
I was gonna interject here, like talking about kids. Like he met Jack, and that was, like he's met him on FaceTime, and like Jack knows him. Like Jack calls him his Yim. Like he'll say,
Yeah, mom is Yim, my Yim.
yes, free in February, so next month, and the bond that they already have is just beautiful, and it's like it's so cool. Like,
Great.
So what's the process then? So assuming from what Liam just said, Katie, if you guys were to have another kid, you would be the carrier. What do you guys do to genetically make that? I don't even know what the right language is. How do you make a baby together and then you carry with Liam's genetics?
basically it would be egg from Liam and then using a sperm donor and, IVF with me. And that's something we're looking at the logistics of, like, is it better to do it in Canada? Is it better to do it in the US? Because, like, America and
Money.
healthcare, but that's a whole different story.
It's expensive. Even in Canada, it's an expensive process.
Yeah, that's something, too, is looking at, like, all the options. But, yeah, as someone who has carried before, and I loved being pregnant, even though I had a rough time in my life at that time. I had a very easy pregnancy. It was the delivery that was tough, but, like, I had a very easy pregnancy. And Jack is happy, healthy, big 3-year-old boy, nearly. But, yeah, I loved it. And so we're very excited, to dive into that and see what that looks like. And,
So what are the other options that you've explored? So you'll carry Liam's egg as right now, hopefully, if that works. What are some of the other options that could happen?
We really haven't gone beyond that.
I guess adoption. You could adopt if you wanted to, but Liam wants, as you should want, part of, your lineage to be passed down. So there's adoption. What else is there?
If they're, if for some reason, and we don't know this, we haven't gone that far deep into it yet. If for some reason his eggs weren't satisfactory, then, always mine.
This brings up a whole other thing to the, like, needing a minute to eat an egg. Like, this is just bothering me now.
Yeah.
Don't eat the babies.
Oh, God. Good Lord.
But,
Oh my god.
but like, we could, like, adoption. So we could adopt embryos if you wanted to. That's the thing you can do.
Oh, cool. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, because sometimes people have too many when they do IVF, and then they're like, we don't want these ones. Like, honest to God. And you can, like, adopt them. You can adopt somebody's embryos.
Yeah, because there are people that have, like, they find out they have cancer and they're not sure what the experience is going to be like, so they freeze their eggs, and you pay, like, $5,000 a year or whatever.
Yeah.
We talked to
store
Taylor
them.
about that. Like, she pays for her babies every year to store them. So
Yeah.
eventually...
It's a subscription for her freezer babies.
Yeah.
Right. So eventually, like, she's built those up. She might have a baby and be happy and then go like, oh, I don't need the rest of these. But instead of throwing them out, there are people that
adopt
don't
them.
have eggs that are freezable, so you can adopt them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And, like, we've kind of looked into what would be better in terms of, like, do we do egg retrieval first and then freeze those? Or if we inseminate and make embryos first and then freeze those, is that better? A lot of unknowns still, but we're hopeful, and it's still, that's the plan, is for her to carry. So
Was that an easy conversation for the two of you? Like, it was just kind of like, you guys just kind of knew, like, yeah, that's how we'll do that.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, because I knew, having been pregnant before and I loved it, that I was like, and obviously knowing every pregnancy is different, but I was like, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much what we were like, okay, this is what it'll look like. And, that's another touch point of, like, it's things are, and also I have to interject here and say the fact that you compared us to Glennon and Abby, I'm just like, yes, because I actually read for the first time like from October till now, because I was squirrel brain and I can only read. I have a 3-year-old boy who's crazy and I work full time, so it's like. But reading it, I would send him like pictures of the book, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is.
And I've also read it, so.
Yeah, me too.
And me, I've read half of it.
I was gonna say, Bridge, did you finish it?
I haven't finished it yet, but I read half of it.
But no, it is, and so I think just like the conversations are easy, even the hard ones. Like even the hard ones are easy. Like and like we've touched on before. Like I'm an Aries. You know, Liam's a Libra, like, you know, and I'm fiery and he's a Spitfire himself. And like, we've had a couple conversations. We've had a couple conversations when he was here. It's like, he's like, are you angry at me? And I said, yep. I need a second. I need a minute.
And I was like, okay, let's talk about it.
He literally, and I remember this was another big moment, capital B big moment was,
we call them glimmers. By the way, glimmers are
like
good.
The opposite of triggers, you know? Yeah. And so he's like, he said, he you know, we had this difficult conversation and he's like, or, you know, we had a misunderstanding. And he comes to me and he was like, what can I do to fix it? And I went, what? Like, that is not my experience. It was always blame and like, this is your fault. And me going, oh, okay, I'm sorry. You know, I'm like, what? And I went, so I kind of had to stop myself and go like, okay, and that's to speak to a lot of like, you know, like coming from trauma, like you can come off defensive and stuff. And it's like, I kind of stopped myself and I was like, okay, so this is the story I'm telling myself is that this is XYZ. He's like, that's not what I'm feeling. What I'm feeling is what, and so we just came to that middle ground of like, okay, but like, I think that so circling back to the IVF, like that, all the hard conversations are even easy because we're like, okay, let's look at this. Let's tackle it as a team, you know, and that's what we look at. It's a partnership. It's like, he is my teammate. Like, you know, like that's what we do. Even being far away, that's what we do.
Yeah, we do it together. And to,
I love this.
I had something. It's good.
Well,
No,
okay,
come
so
back.
quickly, I have one final question, but before that question, I want to ask, like, you guys are really long distance, so are there certain things that you guys do to, you know, keep the relationship alive? Like, how do you go so long distance for such long periods of time?
Baby, go. I've been talking.
I like to hear you talk, though. Every Wednesday night, unless life comes up, is date night. So we usually have a glass of wine, we'll pick a movie, or we'll watch a show. Right now, we're restarting Outlander. And
Oh, I'm so glad that you took that over from me, Katie, because I tried to watch Outlander with Liam, and I was like, this is boring.
So good.
and I'm like,
Yeah, but you guys like that, like, Shakespearean, like, old-timey English vibe. I was like,
I'm just sitting there crying. It's so good. But you know, every Wednesday night's date night, we'll try to make the same meal, or we'll order the same takeout, or just to have those moments of closeness, especially because, you know, our lives are busy in different ways. But it was really nice to be able to get, when I was there, to actually have, like, we had our first in-person date night.
Aww.
Yeah.
So nice.
We got to have two, yeah, and even all those little things that you don't take it for granted because, they're so few and far between. Like last time, between the time that we saw each other, the time before last, the first time, and last time when I was there, it was 105 days. So that's 15 and a half weeks. Mm-hmm. And now we're 65 days.
Our next trip is I will come to visit Liam in, I'll be there March 30th. So it'll be, because my birthday is at the end of March, 31. Woohoo.
Woo.
So I'll stay a week and that'll be our next, our plan is roughly like every 3 months or so, like, and swapping out, like I go visit him, he comes to visit me, you know, but yeah, there was a quote, I was Googling it earlier, but I could not find it. It might even be Glennon Doyle. It may be. So forgive me if it's not, but it's saying something, as saying that our relationship is like a conversation that we only put on pause when we go to sleep. That's what I feel like with Liam and I. I feel like since we've reconnected, it's been a constant conversation. And so that's what even throughout
That's
the day,
so
like I'll
nice.
see something funny, I'll send it to him or whatever. That's just in staying in contact, and like that's where technology is a beautiful thing, because it's like whether it's funny memes or like, hey, like this is like, ooh, look at this TikTok. What does this make you think of? Or like, like it's just to stay connected and being intentional. And Liam is a romantic, and I came back from like a night out with my girls, and he had sent me flowers
So
and stuff
sweet.
like that.
I mean, but what a great way, like it's like the materialistic thing, but when you're so long distance and you don't literally have that day-to-day connection or seeing the person, what important moments to keep that spark alive. And it's great advice for someone who has long distance.
And like we have, I don't know if you guys have seen, it's funny. So Mary, I call them my wives because they're literally the same person.
Yes.
Except Liam also likes to say, Bridget, okay, so he loves Katie, and he goes, Bridget, I love you, but I don't want to rail you. And I'm like, thanks for specifying.
Love each other to the ends of the earth, don't want to rail each other. But I was going to say, we have, like, this is why I laughed, because we both have, Bridget and I and Katie and I, both have, like, the Adventure Challenge book.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Where, like, Bridget and I have the Friends edition, and Katie and I have the Couples
So the
edition,
Adventure Challenge book.
You scratch off a challenge.
Yeah, Liam, can you explain what it is for anybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so it's a book, and it comes with a bunch of different challenges. It tells you, like, but they're covered up, so you have to scratch off. It's like a scratch ticket. And you can pick them based on the amount of time it's going to take, or when you should do it, or how much money it's going to cost, those types of things. And then you scratch it off and do the challenge. So just having those things, especially when you're together, like, we both the relationships I'm in, we make sure to do one every time we're together. And just having those little moments of connection, or we ask each other all the time, what are your highs and lows for the day, or what made you laugh today, or who did you connect with today? Or I think being constantly in conversation but also being consistently curious.
You should start a podcast called that.
Consistently curious?
Constantly in conversation and consistently curious.
Yeah.
The podcast
with Liam. It honestly, though, that
Yes.
being curious piece, the more my relationship continues, even not living states, countries apart, it's the same problem but opposite. I started dating someone during a pandemic where we weren't supposed to go anywhere, so we were together. Since we started dating, we're together all
It's like the opposite.
time. It's the exact opposite, but with the same issue that, like, we have to, he pops his head out like, you talking about me? But we have to be intentional with, like, we're stuck inside during lockdown. How do we make this, like, how do we have a date night? We are together all the time. What do we do to stay curious and have conversation? And there's, like, different things we've had. Like, we ran away to the cottage for 2 weeks because we were like, we need something. It's too new, and it's too much, like, really quickly being put in that bubble.
Too fast.
Yeah, so it was like, how do you still keep that spark alive and not feel like we had a 10-year relationship in 6 months? Yeah, we had, like, a very similar experience of, like, that intentional behavior and those intentional questions and conversations to keep that, the joys of the beginning of dating alive.
Yeah, definitely being intentional. And I was laughing because earlier I said something about Paige Davis, and I feel like we have to mention them. But some of our, like, biggest relationship, like, goals are
Couple goals, hashtag.
Shakespearean actor and Broadway star Patrick Page and Paige Davis, and they're with their careers, they have to live, they have to be apart and everything. And we've actually got to connect with them through, like, cameos and Instagram, and, like, they can relate. And it's funny because, like, she posted something the other day, and I was sad because Liam was gone, and I was like, I said something about, like, she said something about, like, people, like, having your back. Oh, like, she surprised him and, like, was his date to a gala that he didn't think she was going to get to make, or he didn't think she was going to get to make, I should say. And she's like, oh yeah, friends made it happen. I'm like, yeah, my work people helped me have the week off and everything. And I was like, but now Liam's gone. I was like, I know you get it. And she's like, I get it. It's just cool to have those, like, yeah, they're celebrities, but, like, it's like the real people going through the same things. It's like they have to live apart, and and it's funny because we did like these cameo calls where me and Paige were just talking like girls, like just like chit chatting, and Liam and Paige had this like deep conversation about like marriage and being intentional. And I'm like, of course.
She gave me marriage advice. It was great.
5 minutes. They had like a therapy session. It was greatness. But like, it's funny because earlier I was like, yep, okay, that's But it is. You have to. And I have to brag. I have realized in myself that I'm a romantic as well. Like,
yes, you are.
We have shared reminders on our iPhones. And I made one the other day that says, because we're always talking about like it's daily choosing that person, because you can go, oh, like I choose you, whether it's to be your partner or be your wife or husband or whatever. But like it's a daily choosing. It's a moment by moment choosing, and sometimes it might be through gritted teeth of like I choose you, like I don't want to right now, but I choose.
Well, here's the thing: it goes between we can go through patches where you don't like me. That's fine. I don't care if you don't like me, but I know you love me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I can love you and want to be in the same room with you and want to be with no one else. And I can also love you and want to be countries apart, because it's like right now I need to go eat my egg. But having that like Katie, it's a good point to make that we've just spent an hour talking about like what are the chances and all these wonderful things, but that it's taking the Instagram filter off your relationship and being able to be honest like that and say, yeah, like there's like, I love you, but sometimes I want to throw you through a wall, but I'm still going to choose you. And it's a beautiful reminder. I'm learning that in my relationship where you're like, man, like it is work when they say that it's work you want to do.
Oh yeah.
But you do. Yeah. You get up every day and you choose to move forward with that person. And with everything you guys have been through, just doing that work, like you won't live with regret. No. You won't live with the what ifs, and you don't leave it in fate's hands.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, both of us have come from different places, but we both deal with abandonment. Mm-hmm. I know for me, like having my mom like up and die unexpectedly, which is rude. Having my mom up and die unexpectedly.
Honestly, the rudest thing she could have actually done to you. Like,
I know, so rude.
Like, what the hell, Lisa?
So then, to not have any control over that loss, I know, to have that sort of monumental event happen and have no control over it, sort of sets you in a position of, well, what else can happen that I can't control? And it's hypervigilance in a way. And we both are like, what if the other shoe drops? Like we're both, you call it bracing, which I really like. Waiting.
We tell each other in those moments, it's like, hey, I'm kind of bracing here. I feel like, are you like I said, are you angry or whatever, so I feel like that's important that we communicate those. And it's weird for me coming from a space where that was not like, I was always eggshell walking from the moment I was born, as sad as that sounds, from my parents, like, and I go, hey, I feel like I'm eggshell walking here. Is there something to be eggshell walking about? You're like, no, like it's okay. But yeah.
To come from that place of having that issue, but being actively able to discuss that and be that vulnerable person and, to go, at the end of the day, either of us, without any of the bells and whistles, we would choose each other because it's a deep knowing and it's a deep yes, and there is that active choice. Not to say that there will ever come a day where I won't choose you, but to have that reminder of
I literally put a reminder on our phones that every day at 7 a.m. it pops up that says I choose you.
Aww.
I know.
No, it's a great habit to build now. If you know Sarah Bareilles, her song "I Choose You," do you know?
That's on our. We have a playlist. That's on our playlist.
But being able to like, sorry, just to quickly say, like the mind can play tricks, and coming from a place of trauma for both of you, it can hijack the shit out of every emotion and butterfly and all these wonderful things.
Yes.
So to have that that literal reminder is freaking incredible, to be able to say like, I know my demons, I know it's there, this person accepts me, but you've put this course of action in place to set your relationship up for success and say like, through those hard times and through those moments of hijacking, I will put in whatever physical and literal reminders to tell myself I choose this person. That's cool.
I think it's very important, and like kind of talking about, the Talking 20, podcast being like, in my early 20s, it's the consumption of the romantic comedies that were so popular in the early 2000s, the 2010s. It's like, oh, it's all perfect. And I think it's so poignant that like one of our big things is the Broadway musical Hadestown. And one of our favorite lines from the entire musical, a couple of them, is like, I can't promise you fair sky above. I can't promise you kind road below, but I'll walk beside you, love, any way the wind blows. Like, that's what it is. It's not, you cannot promise someone. It is, now we do, believe me, we do. Like, oh, everything was amazing, blah, blah. No, your breath is going to stink. The dishes are not going to be done.
The kids are going to get sick. You're going to get on my nerves.
Your tire's going to be flat. Good God. Don't get me started on that. Like, it's going to happen. But, like, if you can promise to love that person, and even if you have to eat an egg and step back and go, hey, I need a minute. It's not a you thing. I'm having my own stuff. But, like, it's you're promising to walk with that person. That's what it is. It's not, everything's going to be perfect, because, that's what the sanitized romantic comedy wants us to believe, but that's not what it is.
And even with our own issues, it's not like, we've talked a lot about this, it's not like, oh, I'll do the work for you. It's
exactly.
I'll sit in the yuck with you when you're mired down in that yuck, and sit with you while you do that work that needs to be done. For you, for us. Yeah.
Your wedding vows are just going to be filled with so many great metaphors.
Oh, yeah, nobody's going to understand them. I was just thinking, like, bam, I think we just found our first quote, but then Katie says eat an egg in it, and I'm like, people won't get that yet. No, but that was awesome, guys. And Katie, I was going to ask you the last question, which I think maybe you just answered, is before we sign off, this is like a traditional question that we ask everybody. You've had a very transformative year in the last year with all of these new realizations you've made, this new relationship, all that stuff. Do you have any advice that you can offer to people in their 20s or your younger self?
Oh my God. So both. I mean, to both. It's just be authentic. And I know that it's hard. It is so hard, but it's worth it. If you feel a tug towards something, and and we call it deep knowing. Like, and absolutely. Like, and like I said, whether that's, you feel like it's, a higher power speaking to you or whatever, like it's that deep knowing, like, what you want. Like, and it doesn't have to look, and something we often say is like, it doesn't have to look like what everybody thinks it should look like. You need to just be yourself, Don't be scared about what it looks like. If you're going to look dumb, if I could tell myself, oh, I lived a lot of my life for other people. And I feel like I'm finally living something your listeners can look forward to, is that in my 30s, I feel like I'm living it for myself now.
That's amazing. That's very similar advice to what Mary's mom gave on her episode, where it's just like, you gotta stop thinking about what other people think, stop living for other people, doing the things that doing what other people want, and you gotta start doing things for yourself. So that's amazing. Great advice, Katie. Thank you both for coming on the show. Katie, you were such a great addition to Liam and like the building on his first episode. And Liam, thank you for bringing your equipment to, even though it didn't work, your equipment to Texas when you visited Katie so that she could be on this show. That's awesome. We were going to do the episode when they were together. Didn't work out because, kids and things. That's what happens when you have babies. So we did all separate, but it still turned out really nicely. And I'm so happy that you guys could both be here. So if people want to get in contact with you, Liam, obviously they can contact you same way as before, which is on Instagram at @PositiveLiamForSmith. Yep. And Katie, if people wanted to get in contact with you, what are you most comfortable with? Them going through Liam, or do you want to give your Instagram?
My Instagram is super nerdy because I love Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac, so it's crystalline.no.
Amazing. Okay, well, thanks guys so much for coming on. This has been another episode of Talking 20 Podcast. Make sure to follow, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite streaming platform to help us grow, and follow along with our shenanigans on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Talking 20 Podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.